Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening. Just open the door, why not? Let me just double check this. Everything's looking fine and dandy. I just pressed it. There we go. Do you think that Brendan Rodgers will sign a new contract? That is the vote that's in the poll. Just notice that the camera moves about on this thing when I do. So what happens when you bind your system, huh? Do you think that Brendan Rodgers will sign a new contract? Alistair Johnston has been talking about the manager, as well as some other things. We'll just say good evening to everyone first of all. Alistair Johnston isn't in the house, but Stephen Johnston is. Tamakas, Cineres, Michelle, Jim McClarty, just to name a few. So, Alistair Johnston, discussed Player of the Year. I know she just burst the door open and walked in. Yeah. Alistair Johnston decided to talk about Player of the Year. He doesn't personally think that anyone else will win it apart from Dyson due to the fantastic goal scoring exploits and the record breaking stats that he's had over this year. He did acknowledge the fact that there's players like Callum McGregor and Kasper Schmeichel could be in there for Player of the Year at Celtic, and he said he's curious to see how the vote turns out. And then he was talking about the season's goals and treble hopes. And it's a thing that a lot of players, if you remember back to Brendan Rodgers' first time, it was something that the players and Scott Brown discussed at the time. Before the season started, they talk about it before the season started. He went on to say, look, talk of trophies usually kicks on at the end of the season because we talk about what we're going to do next season, what we want to do next season. They're focused on one game at a time, so we don't talk much about winning the treble internally as a squad, you know, because anything could happen. And when you look at the game that happened up in St Johnstone, well, let's see what he said about that. And talking about the upcoming fixtures and the league title, Celtic obviously hope to clinch the title up in Tannadice, and if anybody's got a spare ticket going, give me a shout. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I can get a ticket for a home game, but it's proven a little bit difficult for the away game at Tannadice, as you would expect. He acknowledged it's going to be a tough challenge, especially away from home, but he's not surprised that the Sevco match is this game after the split, which is common practice due to the logistical and policing concerns at that game, especially at Ibrox. He was then asked about the European campaign, proud of progress made, especially getting out of the Champions League group stage and facing a team like Bayern Munich. Well, we didn't really get out the group phase, did we? We got into the playoff. So I suppose that is a big thing, getting into the top 24 of the group and getting into that playoff position. We'll go to talk about Brendan in a minute. I think that getting back to Alistair Johnston saying that he was proud of the European Champions League campaign, do you think that the Champions League, I think the campaign was a fantastic campaign. I think there was 2 games that we could have done a little bit better. And I still think that instead of finishing where we did, I think if we had just applied ourselves a little bit more, now that we can look back at the Champions League, and I think that we can all agree if we had won 2 games rather than draw them, we would have been way further up the table. And I just think that there was a slight chance. I mean, it was a slight chance, but we could have finished top 8 at one point. Anyway, he was proud of the fact that, and he says, look, if you use the campaign as a major step forward for the players and their experience, and he wants to keep on building and aiming higher in Europe next season. Aiming higher would be basically getting into the last 16, not finishing in a playoff position, automatically qualifying. Can Celtic get into the automatic qualification part of the Champions League? I suppose if the draw falls the right way, they could. I mean, they were close to it this year. Can they do it next year? Well, we'll just need to wait and see, because we've got a little bit of a problem before we even get into the Champions League, but then we'll have to come across that and get over that as normal. Anyway, Cameron Carter-Vickers goal, that absolute screamer, the one where he gets the pass from Liam Scales. My mind went blank there. He gets the pass from Liam Scales and he walks up past Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor's expecting him to get the ball. He's like, Cammy just goes, sorry, I've got it. I've got it, wee man. Just you wait there a second, watch this. And he trumbles up the pitch. Nobody comes near him. He keeps on going, and he goes, I'm just going to hit a shot, man. Woofed! Fucking there we go, like Tiger Woods. Or Rory, whatever his name is. And it hits the ball into the back of the net. An absolutely screamer of a goal. And everyone said, Jesus, no one said, where did that come from? Big man? And he said that they've had a bit of banter with that goal in training. And he went on to joke about the possibility that it was going to be goal of the season. I think it could be. Because it's a goal that nobody expected. It's a goal that it was there. He also talks about the rivalry between Canada and the USA. Obviously, Mr. Trump saying that Canadians need to do whatever, and the fact that Canada did beat America, which gives them this sort of slagging rights when it comes to that. Anyway, he was then asked the important question. Yes, sit back in the chair, take a big gulp with this one. Oh God. He was asked about Brendan Rodgers' future. He says that the players love playing under Brendan Rodgers. He's a proven winner and a great manager. And it's kind of funny because you see the way that Ange's stock has kind of fallen apart when he's down at that club that he left Celtic to go for. And I said at the time, it was the worst club he could have went to. He went for one reason, and one reason only, and that was the $7 million a year that they were paying him. But anyway, he went on to say that Rodgers has one more year in his contract, and he, for one, hopes that he stays at Celtic. And it got me thinking, because there's a couple of people in the media talking about the fact that they still reckon that Brendan Rodgers could walk. So it got me thinking. We're going into this summer. It's a massive, massive summer just now. It's a massive summer. Not only does Celtic need to go out, and if we want to improve in Europe, we need to bring in the calibre of player that is better than Ernie Engels, that's better than Rio Hatate, that's better than Callum McGregor. But we all know the way that the Celtic boards will go with this. They'll more than likely go down the route of trying to bring in a younger player that has the potential to go and become a complete superstar. Big size. I know, and as we always get to this time of year and we analyse the squad. And we say, if we can just get 2 or 3 more players in that make the squad better without losing too much out the squad. But we always end up losing a big name, and it seems to be that we just get, just as we think that we're going to get there and we're going to be able to get to a position where we can enhance the squad. And people will say, look, this year in the Champions League we did fine. How many players would it take to make this squad better? Tell me in the comment section. Is it going to take 1, 2 or 3 to make this squad better for the Champions League? So anyway, it got me thinking about the question, do you think that Brendan Rodgers will sign a new contract? 82% says yes, no says 18% so far, and there's 78 votes in already. Well, I voted for Brendan to stay, of course. He'll win a treble as well. I think treble, we'll leave that until at least we get past. Steve Johnson says 4. Big Day says we need 5. Something today says 4 or 5. And I want to see Kieran return to form. I really think he can be a massive player if we can keep him. Kieran, I don't think that under his current form, I don't think that Celtic would be really prepared to sell him, because the valuation of the player isn't what Celtic would want to get for him, and I don't see Celtic selling him at a lesser valuation than what they really think that he could become as a player. And I still think that he's maybe got a couple of seasons. He's got another season in him to prove that he is the player. I mean, if you're going to believe in Celtic, and especially if you're like the likes of Nico Kuhn, Rio Hatate, I mean, it's difficult for a player to leave Celtic and go to another club that's in the Champions League. You look at Matt O'Reilly, he went to Brighton, he got a fucking horrendous tackle in his first game. He's been out most of the season. He's came back and struggled to get into the team. You know, he's now wasting his mindset coach every week to get him back into thinking good things about football. We need 5 players, says Kami Sutra. I should have renamed CCV's big toe. I got fed up with it, Phil. 4 players straight into the team. But then who drops out the team, Joseph? It's okay saying that we need 4 players to come in, but who do they realistically replace? I would say that we need a defender to come in and be solid. A big, solid defender that can come in. Bilwashi, yeah, I'm not sure if that one's going to come off. He's been linked to Celtic. He's been linked to Celtic for about a year now, which tends to make me think that it's not. It does. Celtic never. If a player's linked to Celtic for any more than 2 years, it never tends to happen for one reason or the other. If you look at all the players that have came into Celtic, they've been kind of left field. You know what I mean? It's been. Where the hell did that one come from? I mean, nobody's seen the Kasper Schmeichel deal happening last summer. We brought in the younger keeper, and then you bring in Schmeichel, which is a bit bizarre, but I'm sure Celtic will work it out. But anyway, talking about Brendan Rodgers' future, Brendan Rodgers has helped unlock Alistair Johnston's full potential, he said, especially encouraging him to play on overlapping and attacking fullback role. Just the exact way that Kieran Tierney does it. Never mind this cutting in the left nonsense. So Alistair Johnston has come out and said it. He wants his fullbacks. See, this is where sometimes I don't believe Brendan, because he says that, yeah, he loves the way that one player plays and he comes in off the left. And then he's saying, well, Alistair Johnston, I want you to do overlapping runs and help out the winger and get further up the park. And what have I been saying over the last couple of weeks, the last week anyway? My favourite at doing that were Simon Donnelly and Jackie McNamara. They done it perfectly. The two of them did it absolutely perfectly. It was unbelievable. But it's good to see that Brendan Rodgers has been encouraging Alistair Johnston to do that. And it'll be interesting to see if Brendan does sign a new contract. So that was pretty much all that that Alistair Johnston said. Mark Goody has been talking about Greg Taylor, and this one, oh God, is Paul on. Paul's on. And he's already said the one defender we don't need is Greg Taylor. Well, Mark Goody has said Greg Taylor is closer to sign a contract with Celtic than ever before. Being this Easter week, I hope and pray that Greg Taylor doesn't come out and sign a new contract with Celtic. Because I could just imagine Paul would be it'd be the reincarnation on Sunday, wouldn't it? But anyway, 3 players at least. I agree with you, Richard. Smith. If we get any new players in, it'll be the wage bill will dwindle our economy because we still have to pay the players who aren't getting a game. I don't think that it'll be the wage bill that will screw the figures of Celtic. I think that there will be players that will leave this summer. We made a slight ripple in the Champions League this year. Time to make big waves. Can we make big waves in the Champions League? Realistically, a club of Celtic's size, can we make big waves? I mean, what is big waves? Is it getting to the last 16? Is it getting to the last 8? Or is the Europa more our level? Serious question. I, 'cause 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 You're starting back the OnlyFans, missing the hand of God. The hand of God is with. The hand of God was here. It's because the door used to be on this side of the camera, so the hand of God would have to come in for this side, and she's out of range of the camera now because I've moved the office studio a bit. We have experienced players at Celtic now. It's about Brendan Rodgers finds that player who complement and take us up a level. Big Des, that's a cracking comment. Is that the type of player then? Is it? Mark Goodall said that Brendan will stay for another 3 years. There's also some of them. He also said in the same interview that it wouldn't surprise him that if he left. So, Jimmy the Jock is in the house. Torquay Towns. The Torquay Towns. Last 8 of the Champions League is our new standard. Can we get realistically to the last 8 of the Champions League, and what type of player, and is it the type of player that would be interested in coming to Scotland? I think that we definitely need a bit. Do you mind? I am live. I think we need a certain type of player. MT Celts, Big Rabbi says, "Hey, I think we'll lose Hatate, Welsh, Rocky, Schlupp, Palmer, Ohm, and maybe Taylor." Yep. Schlupp's not going to get a contract at Celtic. Schlupp's never getting a contract at Celtic. Not a chance. Rocky, I think, will leave due to his lack of game time. Welsh is already out on loan, and going by his Instagram, he's loving life. I agree with the rest of them. Odom Ohm's in America. I can't see him wanting to come back from America. When you go, will you send back from America? Because he's not a chance. Anyway, Hatate will be the big one that'll be sold for me this summer, only because he's been at Celtic for 4 years, and Brendan Rodgers has spoken about the fact that clubs like Celtic have a sort of time scale that they can keep players to maximise the return on investment. We need to stick with the Champions League. It's the only way to get better. Yeah, I know we need to stick to the Champions League. Champions League is where we belong. I think it's the level. We have the stadium, we have the infrastructure. All that's missing is the hotel outside and a better fan experience from outside of the ground. I think that once we get that in place, we're a regular Champions League club. When you look at some of the clubs, when I look at some of the stadia around here in Spain, and I look at the fan zones that are external of the stadium but still internal of the footprint of the ground even, and what they can do. I mean, there's a stadium just down the road from me that is 30,000 seater stadium with a tram line right up to it, and it's in the 3rd division. It's a 30,000 seater stadium in the 3rd division in Spain with a tram line right up to the front of the stadium. It's mind-blowing. It just shows that in Scotland we're way behind other countries. So I think that there's a lot that Celtic can do to just get the club at that real big club level. I mean, we're a big club, but finances, and I've always said it, the hotel should have been done ages ago. We've had the planning permission agreed for the hotel a couple of years ago. I think it was 2019, 2018, and I understand COVID and stuff, but I think the hotel would bring you in instant income. It's obviously got its overheads to run a hotel. I don't know how many bedrooms it was going to have, but any venue that's attached to Celtic Park brings in extra revenue. It would all day long. Odin is under contract at Celtic. Yes, he is that. But I think he want to go to America. He want to stay in America. We need a dominating midfield player who can win the ball. That's what Rio Hatate's meant to be, though. That's what Rio Hatate's meant to be. And I think that if Rio Hatate, that should have been the poll question. I mean, what would be the valuation of Rio Hatate if he played like he did last weekend all season and in the Champions League? Villa 1 down, Dortmund 2 up. I forgot. Was there games on tonight? I didn't even know there was games on tonight. It shows you they've lost interest and Celtic's not interested. But anyway, The poll question has been 109 votes on that, and 82% say yep, Brendan Rodgers will sign a new contract. 18% say no. Does it matter if Brendan Rodgers signs a new contract? Will he stay? Say he signs another. I mean, he spoke about it himself that players and managers at any club in the modern game have a length of time that they need to stay at the club. Will he sign? I think if anything, he'll sign a 1-year extension to his contract. I've just got a funny feeling that'll be a 1-year extension, which will be interesting. Just to steady the ship. Just get rid of Hatate. He only turns up a couple of times a season, says Richard. Rio Hatate, the fact that is he only turning up at this time of the season because he knows that he can get a big move and he wants to be in Ross County, got a train to the ground. That's no right outside the ground though, is it? It's about a 5-minute walk. Baz, do we need the tram line up either side of the pitch? Get full backs and wingers. We need something. If Maida was in control of what he was doing, he's doing 100 million. If Brendan Rodgers resigns, Taylor will have outstayed him. His time, never mind players staying. It's a square sausage, Earth. Jesus. Anyway, that's enough of talk of Greg Taylor. And Alistair Johnston has taken all the plaudits tonight. And Celtic have tried this twice in history. We've failed. Seems to be a lot of people think that we're going to go for this Stoke City player. So another... There's a story saying that Celtic are joining the race to sign a 17-year-old. Rangers are interested in him as well. I can't see it. There's no point even talking about that because it's B-team stuff, and let's face it, until we start producing B-team players that can come through into the squad, and I think signing a player at 17 is too late. It's not too late, but what's happened to bringing players through from a younger age at Celtic? We seem to have lost that. But anyway, let's get back into the comments. Christos Jimmick says, should we invest in a giant Zeppelin so we could fly over Ibrox and shit on them? We just get the pigeons, don't we? That was the wings of a sparrow. If I had the wings of a sparrow. Anyway, we need to look for another right back. Do we need to look for another right back? We've got Tony Ralston at right back, and we also have Alistair Johnston. So why do we need that? I hope so. If I can hope Rio will need him back. What he's done before. Can he though? Johnston can improve. He's no better than average, says Kieran. Interesting. Why look elsewhere for a young talent when we don't even play our own youth? I think exactly. That's why I'm not giving that story any time at all, because coming out and saying that we're after a 17-year-old when 17, 18, 19-year-old players that have been at Celtic for the majority of their life can't get into the team. And I think these are the type of players that want to play for the club. You know, they've been brought up Celtic. They've came through the system at Celtic. They're Celtic fans. They want to play for it. And when it then gets to the chance of them getting into the first team, they don't get it for one reason or the other. And then they disappear and they're sold or they're let go. I mean, I noticed that nobody's talking about the young guy, Daniel Cummins. I want to sign Japanese player. Have we picked the best of the Japanese players, or is there still Yes, and the arse of a crow. I'd fly over Ibrox tomorrow and shit on the bastards below. I was waiting on somebody picking up the rest of that. Yeah. Yeah, there's young Donovan. Because Tony Ralston isn't a reliable fullback if Alistair Johnston gets injured. Too many games for him. He's mediocre at best. Is Tony Ralston. He gets a game for Scotland every time in Scotland. He gets a call up for Scotland. So, be interesting. I think that Celtic need, if we're going to go into the market this summer, I think that Celtic seriously need to be looking at players at 6'2" and above to come in. We need some height in our team, and I think that would help us in a European context. And even in the SPFL, you see sometimes in the SPFL that we're kind of bullied. I think we need some height into the squad. We need to fly the 55 mile. Yep. There's plenty more talent in Japan. Aramida has no first touch. Lennon Miller's a no-brainer. People are saying that Lennon Miller's not coming to Celtic, but we'll wait and see how that one pans out. Who was the French player we were linked with, the 7-foot guy? Yeah. I think there's a lot of Paul Edward back. Nah, that's not even worth it. That's going backwards. If you want to go down that road, just bring back Lubo Moravchik. Anyway, how's the poll doing? It looks like it's 80-20. 80-20, 125. If we can get it to 150 votes, there's not many people online, because I believe there is some Champions League football on tonight. Yep, Aston Villa are getting beat by PSG. Dortmund are winning against Barcelona. I need to go and watch that. What am I doing on here? Sorry, folks, but Dortmund are beating Barcelona. Oofed. That's something else. Tomorrow night, we will then have Real Madrid Arsenal in the revenge match. Can Arsenal... Real Madrid need to win about 4 or 5 goals with that, don't they? I can't see the Real Madrid. And then you've got Inter Bayern. What is the... Barcelona are fine. They're winning. It's 4-1 on aggregate. What was I worried about? Dortmund aren't going to do a Celtic to Barcelona, are they? They're never going to do that. Although they've had 55% possession. No, they've had 37% possession. And Barcelona's had 63% possession. There we go. Anyway, Barcelona are 4-1 up from the first leg when Aston Villa PSG are 4-1 up for the first leg. That's only going to go one way, isn't it? That's PSG. Aston Villa for their first season. And we're talking about Celtic getting into the later stages. There's Aston Villa, their first season in the Champions League, and getting to the quarter-final. So it just shows you that nothing is impossible, and I think that it is really the level that Celtic need to be playing for. Because when you get to this level, it's just the financial gulf between what Celtic earn and what these teams are earning in the Champions League is unbelievable. But anyway, let's jump into the comments. 133 votes. Kun Lubo style. Barca possession has been at the back. That's like typical Barca. Will just sit on what they've got that wants it. We need to get the best out and keep the best as we can improve, and that's how it goes. Barca haven't even took a shot. Kun was great first half of the season and shit since the end of the Champions League. Yeah. And I will see Munikov says Paul. Inter's winning 2-1. Yeah. Yeah, I would say so too, because, I mean, you think about it. I mean, Celtic played Bayern. Inter, I would say they're probably better. But it is tight. It is tight for that one. It is only 2-1. Anyway, there's not a lot of people online, so I'm going to go and watch some football. On that note, we need to finish off this polls. 138. Paul, well, there's some people who came on and said that Brendan Rodgers will not sign a new contract, but you've had your chance. We're going to end the poll now. Last 16 must be the board's minimum ambition. Tell you the Huns are nowhere in the 55. Money helps building the team, but it's not everything. It's about the right players and the right tactics for the team. Did we hit the right tactics in the Champions League this season, and did we spend the money wisely? Did we spend the money wisely this year? Kuhn's a one-trick pony. We need a finisher up front. Creating chances ain't the problem. But we've got a finisher. We've got a finisher in Dyson Maida. And, you know, anyway, that's me done and dusted for tonight. I'm going to go and watch some football if the missus lets me near the telly. Brendan's staying for 10 in a row, says Paul. That's a long way away. A long way away. I can't see him staying for 10. Not a chance. Anyway, the board don't get fully back Brendan. He's definitely away in 2026. I think he will be. I think he'll do this one last season. And that'll be him. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.